Well, hello and welcome to a new Let's Learn as We Play, and this time it's the long-awaited Solomon Kane, the board game. We'll work our way through it nice and steadily as we always do and see if we can work out how to play this. First thing you've got to do obviously is read the instruction manual, and you then have to decide which of the stories you want to play. It comes with a huge amount of content. You can see here the various different stories, and the very first decision that you're going to have to make is which of these stories that you want to play. Now, in the box you'll get this quick start guide, and in the quick start guide it recommends that you start with one of these three: Rattle of Bones, The Right Hand of Doom, or Skulls in the Stars. I think we will start with Skulls in the Stars, and I'll see how many people are interested in the videos and see how far I go, but we'll start with that one and see how we get on. Again, this is more about just learning to play and enjoying playing the game as we learn, so whether we do well, whether we make the odd mistake, doesn't matter. What we're trying to do is learn the game, enjoy the game, and get it out on the table. And the best way to learn, as I always say, is to just start playing and just accept that you might make a few mistakes, but as long as you're not making enough mistakes or cheating effectively, then it's fine, you know, just enjoy the game. So the next thing we need to do is choose the style of game that we're going to play. If we look to the instruction manual again, we see that there's 4 modes of play. Cooperation, which is 1 to 4 players, confrontation, 2 to 5 players, solo, 1 player, or duel, 2 players. I will be playing solo, but there's 2 modes we can do, cooperation or solo. Now the only real difference here is that they have created a specific virtue just to make the solo game, I guess, more enjoyable. I don't know, but they've created a specific virtue called Providence, and when you play Providence, you don't get to access the other dashboards of the other virtues. So I think in terms of keeping the amount of stuff on the table to a minimum, and also playing the solo game, which is obviously one of the modes they've created, so let's give it a go. I think we will go with the solo mode, and we'll save cooperation for another day. The main difference with cooperation is that you play one of the 4 main virtues and you get to pick which one of those 4 that you wish to play. So it gives you the opportunity to play the different virtues, which is nice. But we will start with solo and we will go from there. So now we take the next step, which is the setup. And this is easy enough. We open up the chosen story. We choose which act that we wish to play. Now, I don't want to jump ahead, so maybe if you've already played Act 1 or whatever, you would pick up from where you were up to. We're right at the start, first time we're playing. So we will go with Act 1 of 2. There's a little bit of flavour text down here. We look down here, it says, "These things be deeds of some power of evil. The lords of darkness have laid a curse upon the country. A strong man is needed to combat Satan and his might. Therefore I go, who have defied him many a time." So we turn over and we see that the first chapter in the game is 1A. You can see up at the top here, which is a story chapter. Story chapters don't require any miniatures or game tiles. They will, however, have some element of decisions and cards to work through. The other nice thing about these storybooks, which I think is really helpful, is that it actually shows you right at the beginning. If we look at this page, it shows you exactly which miniatures you're going to need and how many of them. So we've got 6 of the shadows. It also, if we look down here, shows you which game tiles you're going to need. So if you're going to work your way through the entire act in one session, you can get all of this stuff out ready and know that you can put the rest of the box contents away and you know, save yourself some space. So let's have a look at what the first chapter. So it's a story chapter, and then we start with the flavour text of the story. Oh, at this point I should point out as well, there's no way that I can play through this and record it and show you without a spoiler. This is a story-driven game, so there's absolutely no chance of us getting through this without a spoiler to this story that I've chosen to show you. Having said that, if you don't mind a spoiler, and there are plenty more stories, acts and chapters to work through, so hopefully you can manage suffering this one being spoiled for you. But if you don't want to see that, now is the time to stop. So let's read the flavour text. The shadows of evening draw closer, and the sun turns the horizon to blood when Solomon Kane strides into the village. The Puritan is clad in sombre black, his broad belt hung with deadly accoutrements, pistols, shot, powder, rapier. Protruding from the cuff of his high boots is the hilt of a dirk. All about the man is the aspect of steel, danger and grim resolve. The English peasantry eye this austere vision with no small measure of suspicion and fear as it glides through their community. Ahead lie the open moors, on the other side of which is Talkertown, Kane's ultimate destination. For the nonce, he is set upon a hearty meal at the tavern to fortify him, for he intends to travel through the night so that he arrives at Talkertown by morning. Kane ducks under the low lintel of the journeyman's rest doorway to enter the dingy, smoke-filled room beyond. Okay, so we have our flavour text. We have up here our special rules. Whenever a virtue takes a move action, instead place one light token. Place one darkness card onto the cloud. Objectives: illuminate Solomon's path. And the outcome: if Solomon's path is bright, we would proceed to chapter 2a. However, if it's dark, we would proceed to chapter 2b. And what it's talking about here is this path. If we manage to illuminate 3 or more of these positions, then it would be classed as a lit path. However, if we do 2 or less lit, then it would be classed as a dark path. Okay, so we continue the setup. We take the dashboard for our chosen virtue. This is the Providence dashboard. We take the 8 virtue cards for our chosen virtue, so Providence. We shuffle these. Now this is the same whichever virtue you choose in whichever story. This is in the general setup instructions on page 12 of the manual. And we deal them into 2 piles of 4. There's only 8 cards for each virtue. So there we go. Right, so now that we've split them into 2 piles of 4, we have a look at these cards and we choose which of the 4 which pile of 4 we're going to keep. So honestly, first time ever playing, I have no idea which cards are going to be better to us or worse to us. I know that increasing danger on our stat board is bad, and I know that being able to remove darkness, which is what this card lets you do, is good. That's really useful, being able to place 2 light, because obviously we are trying to put light onto his path, illuminate Solomon's path, so that's good. Not sure how useful this one is to us. Fight 4 or gain 2. I think this is luck. Yeah, 2 luck is the green dice, so that would be 2 luck. Luck dice allow you to re-roll dice that you are not happy with. So okay, that's 1 pile of 4. Let's have a look at the other pile. As I say, I'm not in a position of experience to be able to say which is better or not. Okay, that certainly looks nice. We can take away 1 danger, or we can add a light, so that's useful. I'm not sure how useful interrogation is going to be to us. Talk 4 or gain 2 mercy. Explore 4 or draw 2 blessings and choose 1 to place on the cloud. This one's good. Move 2 or move up to 2. Oh no, this is just moving light that you've already got to different sockets. So I feel like the first pile is the better pile for us for this story from my very limited knowledge. So having chosen the stack of 4 that we want, place 1 card from this chosen pile into your dashboard's left-hand action slot and another into your right-hand action slot. Okay, so what it means by that is when you have your dashboard ready, you put a card into... Tell you what, let's put that in the left-hand slot and let's put that in the right-hand slot. There we go. So that is our dashboard. these symbols here, these correspond to the symbols on the dice that we're going to need. So if we wanted to use this action, we'd have to get this symbol on one dice, and we would have to get that symbol on the other dice to put there, or we simply get the wild card symbol, which is the cross, and the cross can be used in place of any other symbol on the board. Okay, these are the sockets that it was talking about. This is where we can place light tokens, and as we place the tokens on there, they are going to give us benefits. This one will increase our aura size by 1 space. Not so useful in the story scenes, but useful when you get into the action scenes. +1 dice, that's useful. Plus X to all tests. Now X is how many of these have got a light token on them. So we'll get more into that as we play. But right now we just need to continue with the setup. So we have chosen our stack of 4. We've placed 2 cards into these. We now need to shuffle the stack of 4 that was left. This is going to be our sort of draw deck. Okay, I'm going to put that out of the way because we don't need that right now. And that leaves us with 2 cards in our hand as well. Okay, and then obviously we haven't discarded any yet, so there is no discard pile yet. Place the tiles and miniatures. Well, we're not going to have to do that. We're supposed to place the fight effect and discovery cards for this act to one side. Well, I have the discovery cards. When you undo your box, you'll find all of these are shrink wrapped for each particular story. So I have all the discovery cards needed for the Skulls in the Stars Act 1. There's a separate pack for Act 2, and I'm going to put those to the side as well. I have the fight and event decks handy. Got our player aid that they provide, 4 of these player aids. So this just reminds you of what you need to do. Quite a useful thing to keep handy. Okay, and then we can just go back to the story and just see what else we might need. The next thing that this tells us is our stat board. So for each chapter, it will tell you what your stat board should start at. Now here's the stat board, and I must say it's a nice board, it's lovely, but it's gigantic. I can't help but wonder if the people creating this game had a huge table available to them, because this takes up a huge amount of space. So we simply look at the book. It tells us that strength is to start at 5. I think the green is much easier to see if I have a contrasting colour. Clarity starts at 5, so we just look down the list here and we simply put these in place on each one. 5, and danger starts at 3. There we go. So there is our stat tracker updated. We also have the cloud. Don't know which side we should go for. I think I'll go for, yes, this nice golden side, unless it tells me otherwise in some other rule that I haven't seen yet. So we'll put the cloud there. And then the last thing that it tells us on the story information is that we need ×4 darkness. Okay, so we need to shuffle the darkness deck and get those. Okay, so we've set our stat board up. We have our cards ready, our action cards. I've put the 2 spare cards from our hand over to the side. We have a well shuffled darkness deck, and we have selected the 4 cards from that deck. That's our darkness stack. Try and find somewhere to put that. There we go. We've got our cloud. Okay, with everything set up, we can now start. We can use the player aid to remind us of what we need to do. And the very first thing we need to do is roll 3 dice. So we'll take our 3 dice, give them a good roll, and see what we get, if it ever stops rolling. I'm very keen to trigger this card. If we trigger this card, we get to place 2 light, and we don't have to worry about running out of darkness cards, because the length of the chapter is dictated by how many darkness cards you have. When we activate the last darkness card, if there's no other cards at the end of that point, then that's the end of the game. And obviously we don't want to finish that game until we've got at least 3 light tokens over here on this tracker. You can just see here on the left. Preferably we'd want more than 3 because you get a bonus if you get more than 3. So with our roll of the dice there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that symbol, place it there. I'm going to also take the wild card symbol and place it in our reserve. So effectively we've got these two, which means that our next go we can definitely trigger this. Whatever happens, we only need 2 other dice and we'll be able to trigger that. This dice is of no use to us. We're not going to do anything with that. That's the end of our turn. Let's see what happens with the darkness card. So what the darkness card is doing, we only activate this top part when we're on the story chapter. So these parts here, these are used when you're in a scene mode where you've got the game tiles and the miniatures. But for a story, you simply activate the very top part. We're going to lose -1 to clarity. Let's just come over here. So -1 to clarity. And then it says -1 to strength or -1 to compassion. I have no idea if one of those is better than the others. So I'm simply going to reduce strength to 4. And that is one of our darkness cards expended. Put it out the way on the discard pile. Now it's our turn again. These 2 dice are in my reserves, so I get another couple of dice to bring me back to 3. I'm going to roll these 3 dice. And we have got exactly what we need to trigger this card. So I'm going to put one of the dice into reserve. I'm going to move these dice onto the card so we can see that we've got the correct amount of dice with the correct symbols to trigger the effect. And what this immediately allows us to do is place 2 light tokens. We just come back over here. 2 light tokens over on the tracker. And that is the end of our turn. Let's see what darkness is going to do. Darkness is going to all virtues discard their right hand action card. Ah, okay, that's unfortunate. Well, at least we got to use it once. So this goes into a discard pile. We then look at the 2 cards in our hand. And we can... neither of these is particularly great. I think we will simply put this one down. We're not going to use it. I'm pretty sure of that. We then take the top card off our draw deck. If you remember, we had a deck of 4 cards that was left. That becomes a new card in our hand. Again, I'm not sure that that's particularly much use to me, but fair enough. We'll put those off to the side. That's our new hand of 2. That was the end of Darkness's go. So we put that away on the discard pile. Now, how can we add light? The only card that we've got left that allows us to add light, we can add light with this card, which says move or place 1 light token. We can also add light by using this card, where all we need is 3 dice, and that would allow us to move her 1, but of course the special rule says wherever there's a move action we can place a light token. How many darkness cards have we got left? Just 2. So let's roll our 3 dice. Let's see what we get. Okay, so this is what we're playing with. We have got 2 wild cards, which is great, so we can do whatever we like with those. We have got these 2. I'm tempted, I think if we put that one in reserve and then we use these 3, in fact, why am I putting that one in reserve? Let's put one of the wild cards in reserve. That seems far more sensible. Put that in reserve. I'm going to use these 3. Ah, no, if I do a move action, right, we've got to be really careful here. If I do a move action, I'm going to immediately lose one darkness card, which means that effectively would be the end of the game because darkness will go next. We should win unless the darkness card says we lose a light token, because we will have 3. So we will win, but I'm trying to win here by getting 4 maybe light tokens just so we can get a little bit of a bonus. Just giving myself a little bit of an extra challenge there. So what we should probably do is use our left-hand card here to add another darkness card. We've got 2 wild cards and a heart, that would do. We need to re-roll a dice to try and get this circle symbol, so let's do that. Well, that's no use to us. Okay, well, do you know what? We can still save these 2 in our reserve for our next go, and we can expend these 2 to add another darkness card to the darkness deck. That is the end of our turn. No light tokens for us this go, but at least we've got a few extra darkness cards now to play with. So the darkness card is going to go, it's going to do -1 to clarity, -1 to strength or compassion. Well, let's take 1 off compassion this time, so we're now down to 4 there. Discard that card, and it's our turn again. I'm going to have to be careful here actually. It might be better to just get the win before we lose all of our starting stats. But let's see what we get and then we'll make the decision. Alright, so what have we got then? We've got wild card, heart. Now what we need to be able to do the move, let me just see if we can do this. If I can do 2 moves, I really don't care if darkness loses both of their cards, because effectively we'd have the 4 that I've been trying to get. So can we do that? Let's see. We'd need the circle and a wild card, and then over here we would just need 3 dice. So this is perfect. We'll move 1 using this, which means we get to put a light token over on our story tracker. We've moved, so we have to put a darkness card onto the cloud. Then we activate this one, which gives us another light token, and darkness, another card goes onto the cloud. There's nothing else we can do in our go because we've expended all of our dice, and there is no darkness card. If you check the instructions, it will tell you that when the last darkness card is gone, you will complete either the virtue player's turn or the darkness player's turn. So that was in our turn that these cards got moved, and we have completed our turn. That is the end of the chapter. As you can see, we've ended the chapter in what they would call the bright state. We've got 3 or more light tokens, so we're going to proceed to chapter 2A, which is great. I'm sure that it's better to go to 2A than to 2B. But we also get a bonus because we didn't just get the 3 that we needed in order to win, we got 4. So I've just brought the rule book out just to remind me here. So when we complete a chapter and we meet the criteria, but if we're able to meet the criteria with more, well, with 3 or more, we actually get some modifications. So if we'd just got the 3, which is what we'd need to turn the path bright, we'd get 1, but because we got 4, we get 2. And each modification allows you to change the stat board to put something up, or I suppose if you're doing danger, down by 1. So we've got 2 that we can spend. Let's just come over here, and I think really let's put clarity back up to 5, because that seems to be a favourite of the cards to reduce. So let's put that back up to 5. I've no idea if we'll actually keep these settings or if the next chapter will reset them. I don't know, but that seems like a sensible thing to do with the points that we've got. And that is the end of the first chapter in the first act of this particular storybook. So, because we made the path bright, we would turn to chapter 2A. And if we have a look at chapter 2A, we can see that this is different. This time it's a scene chapter, which is great. That means we're going to be using miniatures, we're going to be using the game tiles, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to chunk my videos up into smaller sections. So instead of going into chapter 2a now, I'll finish this video here and I will film a separate follow-on video for this next chapter, and we'll learn how to do a scene chapter during that video. Thank you very much for following this far along in a fairly long video, and I do hope you'll come back for the second one. Take care, everybody.